so Ethan, our producer, was a genius. And I was like, dude, you need to find a way for us to get bricks for free. And he was like, I can do that. And he called every like masonry in the like greater Boston area and was like, hey, making a movie. Is there any way that you can like help us out and give us some bricks for free for like a credit in the movie?
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Bartek Szymanski, and I'm bringing you the Across the Globe Film Festival podcast. My guest tonight is Thomas Cross. Thomas is a writer, director, producer, and the creative force behind Ill Will, which was just submitted and accepted into our festival. Thomas, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Me and Thomas were talking a little bit right before we started the podcast. He was telling me a little bit about his experiences in LA right now. We'll get into Ill Will, which he has mentioned that he recorded quite a while ago. It was in 2019, you said, right?
It was, I had to look at my call sheets today on my phone. Like 15 minutes ago, I was like, when did we shoot this? Just because the last 2 years of my life have been probably the most eventful and confusing that I've had so far. So
because of the pandemic or other?
Yeah, because of everything. We can get into this later, but I literally like had a career change like in the like during the pandemic, did something else for 6 months, and then just recently came back to filmmaking. So it's been a whirlwind. Like honestly, shooting Ill Will feels like 6 years ago, but it was, as it turns out, August 2019.
Did you go to Thailand to become a monk? What did you do in those 6 months?
In a lot of ways I did. But what I really did was move back to my hometown and worked for my parents for 6 months.
Okay.
So yeah,
similar.
So it's a lot like Thailand in that way. It's Yakima, Washington, which is Eastern Washington.
Right.
I actually just wrote my first feature about it, about like, I don't want to spoil anything, but it takes place in Yakima.
No spoilers here.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, for the past, this was in, I think, March of 2020, when like things first started really getting shut down. The film industry just like ceased to exist overnight, pretty much. Like, I think the last thing I shot was, do you know The Prom on Netflix?
Yeah.
I didn't like shoot it. I wasn't a DP, but I was a PA.
I thought you were gonna say, remember that guy and that dancing?
Yeah. No, that was Matty Lee Batik. He's a cool guy. But I was on set of that, and things were kind of starting to get weird. Like we were all getting texts that were like, "Oh, hey, it's in LA now." I think that was, no, I shot a commercial right after that. But that was like one of the first things where we were sitting around, me and like the other PAs, and we were like, I think this might get bad. I think things might start shutting down because the novel coronavirus is seeming like it's getting kind of bad. And I remember being like, no, dude, that's not going to happen. This happens all the time. Like there have been a bunch of other pandemics that ended up not really being that bad. And then a few weeks later, it was bad. and then every production overnight was just like, pull the cord. So yeah, I moved back home. My parents like subcontract with FedEx. It's kind of a confusing thing, but FedEx Ground has like contractors in each area that they service. So my parents run like a shipping company, more or less. And they needed a bunch of drivers because everyone was getting things delivered because of the pandemic.
Right.
So they were like, hey, you could work for us. We're still operating. Like we have to operate. So you can come back here and work for us. So my wife and I moved back in with my parents for what was supposed to be a couple of weeks. And then things just got worse and worse with COVID.
Yeah.
So we were there for like a total of about 6 months, which was nice. I didn't just sit around and collect unemployment, but which would have killed me. We were literally here for like 2 weeks, and I was like watching movies, doing some reading, playing video games, trying to work out and stuff. And then I was just like, I can't be sedentary for like this indefinite amount of time. We have to do something.
It was a weird time. I mean, it still is it was a weird time, but
it's still a weird time, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Never expected to do it.
I think the what's that?
I never expected to do a Zoom interview for Ill Will.
Oh no, we'll get into everything. I mean, you have a lot more to offer. But I do want to mention Ill Will, and I know you told me specifically not to get into it too much because it was so long ago.
We
He
can.
also told me
It's all coming back now.
not, yeah, and you specifically said not to mention the synopsis, but I'm gonna break that rule
Okay.
because when I read the synopsis, I couldn't help but compare it because the first movie that came to my mind when I read the synopsis was Knives Out, which came out the
Yeah,
same year that
dude.
this was
Yeah.
recorded. So I wanted to ask, is there
I
any
forgot
type
about
of
that.
influence or comparison, or maybe I'm just completely off because I haven't seen
You're
the
not totally.
film.
When did Knives Out come out, actually? Because I think if
I
I'm,
think it was 2019.
it was 2019, but when in 2019? Here's what I know is that we did not rip off Knives Out because I remember seeing. No, I know it's like, yeah, it came out in November 2019, so we had already shot the movie. But I remember like seeing Knives Out, and I was like, that's my movie. I was like, damn it, dude. Rian Johnson did it, and he did it better and for way more money, and it's a feature. But to some extent, I was also like, I was disappointed, obviously, because it was like, okay, that's pretty much the same movie. But to some extent, I was like, it's cool because that means that like my team as like a producing team, our heads are in the right place of like what's dramatic and what's interesting to a viewer and what people like, what could actually get a budget from a major studio, like what could you
Yeah,
actually get made.
yeah,
So I was discouraged, but also like, okay, the long term of this problem is a good thing. Knives Out is better than Ill Will. I'll give it to him. It's a better movie. Just by like a little bit, but it's a better movie.
that's a great promotion. It's
Yeah.
almost like Knives Out. You got to see it. That's good. How was I mean, we know it's a short film. How was the production, if you remember?
I remember the
Did you
production
film it in
very well.
LA?
We did. We filmed it in Altadena. So it's actually like a very serendipitous thing. So my buddy Jim, have you seen Thunder Road at all? Or he just did
Gosh.
The Wolf of Snow
Uh,
Hollow. Um, so I don't know how to tell this story without giving you like a little bit of backstory. So basically, when I was in college at BU, me and my buddies who I like still work with, uh, Bronson and Ethan are their names. We had a radio show on like the college radio channel called WTBU, and we would like have filmmakers on as guests. And Jim Cummings, not the voice of Winnie the Pooh, the director and actor, he had just won Sundance the grand jury prize for short films with his short film called Thunder Road. So he came on and we like chit chatted on the show, and he was really cool. And then later, like I want to say like a year and a half later, I needed to get an internship in LA because BU does this like abroad program where you come and live at Park La Brea actually, and you like do an internship. And a lot of people get like really rad ones. Like they'll be at like Funny or Die or like Blumhouse or like Sony, like people get really cool, really like big name internships. And I wasn't getting anything. And then I just like emailed Jim and I was like, hey man, he went to school at Emerson, which is also in Boston. I was like, hey, I'm just like a Boston filmmaker, need to get an internship. You were really cool when you came on the show. I know you probably don't remember, but he was like, yeah, man, absolutely. Reach out to Vanishing Angle. They're the company that I work with, and they should hear you out if you say that I sent you. So I did. And then lo and behold, I got the internship there, became friends with Jim, and then kind of
Nice.
like, I don't know, he's like really influenced my style because I really respect him as a filmmaker and everyone at Vanishing Angle. They just like make movies really, really the right way and like for cheap, and they look great and they're funny and heartbreaking, and that's what we wanted to do. So at the time, I would say kind of started by Thunder Road. Vanishing Angle was sort of like going through this renaissance where like a lot of us were shooting like one take movies. So Jim shot a bunch, and then a guy, Dustin, who actually plays Jay, the lawyer in the movie, he and Jim like co-directed one. Danny Madden shot a one take movie, and then Mari Walker, a director who just got a movie into South by actually called See You Then. So I was like, why don't I, try my hand at this? Because ultimately what people think with the oneer, right? You think that the point is to like impress people, right?
Hmm.
That it's like, look, we did this one take shot, isn't that impressive? And really what the point is that it's feasible to do a very high production value short in like one weekend, because I've shot a few different shorts and it's always been like this labor of love. We have way too little money to do what we're trying to do. We're cutting all these corners. There's no permits, there's no real like actors being paid or crew being paid or anything. We don't have like lunch. Like, that's what the
If you're
college short
lucky.
film, yeah, it's what the college short film experience is. So what we realized was that like we're biting off more than we can chew by doing all these locations. And that's where all the money that we do have, which might be like a couple grand, is to like moving to these different locations, and you have to rent the camera for 3 weeks instead of 2 days. So this time we were like, let's do it small. Let's do one location. Let's get the nicest camera we can. Let's get the nicest lens we can. Let's really rehearse and get the performances where we want them. And then just shoot it out in one shot, because literally you're putting the entire budget on the screen in that one shot if you only have one shot. So that was my philosophy with doing it as a oneer, is like, we had a movie. Sorry, this is kind of a sidetrack, but it's
No.
the same story. So we did a movie in, I think, 2017 called Sunrise Paradise, where I was the DP, I was the writer, my friend Bronson was the director and like executive producer, and like 1,000 other jobs. He was super overwhelmed. But we had like 20 grand to shoot it, and we had probably like 20 locations, and within each of those locations we had probably like 10 or 15 camera setups. So when you go down the list, right, and you're like, okay, we have this movie that is total 20 grand, but each shot is only worth a few $100, because we have spread that 20 grand over all these locations, and now we've spread that location over 10 different shots. Each shot is only worth a couple $100. Whereas if you are in one location, and
it's an interesting way to put it.
It's a scientific approach. And if you have one location and one shot, that shot is worth $6,000. So
Right.
now you're getting into the level where a feature film has each shot worth about $6,000, right? Because it's millions stretched over months and locations and setups. But you're getting into that like similar competitive arena.
Yeah.
Which is not something you will learn in film school, depressingly.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm amazed, like being just out of film school, the amount of like blind spots that film school has from just, and like not to rag on BU, obviously I loved my experience at Boston University, but like how little you actually learn about production is staggering when you get into the real world.
Yeah. It's interesting. I can't speak for any Boston schools like BU or Emerson, but in studying in New York City, I myself was doing, especially when I was a senior in high school, just any film that accepted me, I just any shorts, and a lot of them obviously were student films, and I did it even through college, and there is a certain type of quality that each school has. Obviously you're going to work with different people, but even over the years I think there's a certain reputation that each film school has, and it shows in the quality of the work and how their production goes.
Yeah.
What do you how do you have you worked with a bunch of student films where you see a lot of these missing keyholes that you might have already gotten experience with working in the real world per se?
Like 90% of what film production is actually like, you do not learn in class. So like, I mean, it starts with, we really got a master class in it on Sunrise Paradise. So this was this movie that turned out not how any of us wanted it to, because we were like super stressed out. We had way too little sleep. We didn't know very much about scheduling. We didn't know much about locations or scouting or permits, or how, like, we had Crafty, which was, to our credit, Bronson's mom was really sweet and like took care of getting Crafty for everyone. So we were always fed, but it's hard to remember. I don't know if we always had lunch. like also in film school, they don't teach you that like you can get sponsorships. So like on between Sunrise Paradise and Ill Will, we did this movie called Amontillado, which went to like a couple festivals and actually like did did okay. Like it won a cinematography award out here at LA Under the Stars, which is a really neat festival. Actually, that was a super fun one to be a part of. And then it won like an audience award at BU. And on that, we were like, okay, do you know the story of The Cask of Amontillado at all?
No.
So it's an Edgar Allan Poe short story, and pretty much two guys get drunk and one guy buries another guy in a wall. It's very like college, you know. So we did a modern version of it where like two guys go on a bar crawl and like there's like information comes to light where one guy's like, oh, I gotta kill this dude, and he buries him in a wall at the end of the night. And we were like, okay, what we have to do is get brick and mortar, which is going to be expensive by the nature of material expenses. So we were like, that's going to be the whole budget. Because essentially, you know, this was a production 2 movie where like the school's not going to give you any money. And we were like, we can't do a Kickstarter because we just did a Kickstarter for Sunrise. And that was a huge like undertaking. And we don't feel like we did everything we want to do with the money anyway. So sorry, what were you going to say? Did you have a question?
No, I was gonna cut in and just ask, what exactly did the school? I mean, did they provide you with camera equipment or?
They did. I don't think we used any of their cameras. Oh, we used Bronson's camera because Bronson had bought, which I think he still has, which maybe we should use more often than we do. But Bronson had an Ursa Mini. I'm pretty sure he still has it. So that's like a nice Blackmagic camera. So we used that and his lenses. So he wasn't technically in our class, but he came on as like an executive producer. Sorry, I'll finish the story about the bricks. So essentially I like asked my parents, I was like, hey, I hate to do this, but like, can we have any money to make this movie? Like, we can't do a Kickstarter again. We've already, because you know, that's kind of a like crowdfunding when it's just like friends and family is a well that is going to dry up at some point, because you can only like, even for Ill Will, we did like Indiegogo and it was like tooth and nail trying to get even like $10 out of anyone to support, which is like, to their credit, I get it. If you have a cousin or like a friend from high school who's like, hey, please just give me money, it's like, it gets old, right? It's like, at some point, this has to be a career and not a hobby for you. Like, I'm not going to keep paying for you to go to summer camp. But
but you mentioned first sponsorships, which are different, right?
Exactly. So my parents gave us like $500 for, which is like very sweet of them. So they were executive producers on Amontillado. They gave us $500, and we were like, okay, so if we buy the bricks necessary to bury him in the wall, that's just the props, right? That's only props or like set deck, whatever, to put someone in a wall. That's going to be more than $500. So then we're not going to be able to feed anyone. We're not going to be able to like really get any costumes or any other props. So we're like, that's out. So Ethan, our producer, was a genius. And I was like, dude, you need to find a way for us to get bricks for free. And he was like, I can do that. And he called every like masonry in the like greater Boston area and was like, hey, making a movie, is there any way that you can like help us out and give us some bricks for free for like a credit in the movie? And one like an hour and a half north of Boston was like, sure. So we drove an hour and a half, and none of us had cars because it's college, so we had to like borrow a friend's car. And we like took his car and drove it up to this brick and mortar place and like just loaded like pallets of bricks in the back. We were like, I don't know if this is good for the suspension of the car. But we drove it back down and then used those to make the movie. And it's like, that's the kind of creativity and like the thing that makes it possible to make movies that like they never taught us that in class. And again, like I don't mean to rag like about all these blind spots, but like ultimately your best teacher is going to be just making a movie, right?
Right.
I've got good stories like that, dude. Not about Ill Will. Well, oh no. So for instance, on Ill Will, we were like, we have $6,000. A lot of that was mine and my wife's money. Like we had put in thousands of dollars ourselves because we believed in the project. And you just kind of have to at a certain point as the director. Like no one's gonna believe in it like you do. Bronson learned that on Sunrise Paradise. He put a ton of his own money into it. And we were like, we don't want to have to pay for lunch because that's going to be a pain. So I think it was Emmy. It might have been, Emmy's my wife's name. I think it was Emmy. It might have been Ethan though, like called a bunch of just like restaurants around the place that we were shooting in Altadena. And got us free lunch basically for the 2 days. So we had 2 days. The first day was just rehearsing and like camera prep and like lighting the scene. And then the second day we just literally shot the whole day.
Wow.
Yeah. And we got food both days for free, which was like, you know, that's hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. Is there some kind of, when it comes to sponsorships, is there usually a value that you can, offer a company or a small business?
Yes. Yes. My advice would be offer a credit. And it's all about, I mean, this is like the crux of producing, right? Is like, it's essentially being a salesperson. It's like making people feel like they're getting a better deal than like they're getting more than they're giving, basically, right? So like, and I forget, it's kind of bad, but I forget the name of the place that gave us food. It was a taco place, but we just put them in the credits. They're like under one of our supporters, like kind of with the Indiegogo stuff. We just put their name and got a bunch of free food. There's actually a better story. This isn't about ill will, but there's a better story, and it involves Lagunitas. Do you know Lagunitas at all? I think it's kind of a West Coast thing. It's this like it's this big like IPA company. We were making a movie when we still were in college here, like doing our internship programs. It's called The Cliche. I act in it. It's great. And I think I produced that one as well. But we were shooting and we needed to do a party scene. So we were like, we need a bunch of beer, basically. So Ethan worked his magic again, emailed like 50 different beer companies in LA. No one responded. Of course, because all the time people are like, hey, free beer. So it didn't work. And then Lagunitas like responded. They're like, yeah, dude, whatever you need, you can have it for like the movie. It doesn't really matter to us if it shows up. You can just have it at the wrap party, whatever you want. So we were like, okay, that's pretty great. So we drive out to Compton in Ethan's like rental car. And we go inside and they were surprised that we were like 22 or whatever, because you can sound very old on email. You can sound like a real producer.
Right.
And we go in and they're like, oh, hey, are you guys here for the beer? And we're like, yeah, our car's just out there. And they're like, okay, great. And we like signed 2 pieces of paper. We thought they were going to give us like a couple cases, like maybe like a 24 pack or something. We walk outside and there's a forklift behind Ethan's sedan.
Oh my!
Just with a pallet of booze on it. And we were like,
it's probably heavier than the bricks you guys took.
We're like, okay, that's great. That's great. Yeah, just we'll put it in the trunk. Whatever doesn't fit, we'll just keep on our laps. That's fine. And we got back in the car. We were just like, dude, we're real producers. We're real producers now. We got beer for free.
I feel like you're also an extension of your family's company because you keep shipping very large loads of items back and forth.
Yeah, that was my first foray into shipping for sure. That was how it got started.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how does it? I mean, do you still sort of need those little creative outlets to do the films you do now, or do you feel in a much more comfortable place, or is it just simply always necessary when you're a producer or you're a creator of your own film?
Well, like I think that those are like super good lessons to learn for like anything, because even like I've worked on big sets, like big movies, and even at that level, it's like the creativity of like how to solve these problems still really has to be there. Like you really still have to be scrappy, and ultimately it's always going to be a benefit for the film, right? If you can be scrappy and like take care of things like that, because otherwise you're just going to end up like wasting money, or money's not showing up on the screen. Like, cause like I said before about like this shot is worth $6,000. You got to think about it. Any money that we can save on food for the day by selling a sponsorship, which is free for us, by the way.
Yeah.
That's literally creating capital where there was none, because it's just writing their name. Like that doesn't hurt the movie at all. We are now taking that $500 it would have cost to feed 20 people for 2 days, maybe $1,000, honestly. I don't know how cheap you could do it, but it's paper. And and we're taking that money and we're literally putting it on the screen. We're getting a better costume. We're getting a better, I have some of the props back here. We're getting better props. We're getting another take because we have more time that we can like throw to the location or whatever. That's another thing is like, so like in film school, you don't realize that locations cost money, and like how to work with a site rep. You don't realize.
Do you mean for permits or just transportation or everything in between?
Yeah, everything. Because not just, I mean, the real expense is because I just shot, so Jim, who I was talking about earlier, he just shot well, God, that was 2019 as well. Wow, man, what happened to the last year? So he shot a movie in 2019 called The Beta Test, which I associate produced. And on that, like, we spent thousands of dollars on location, and that's not the permitting. That's literally for the location to allow us to shoot. Like, because when you're loading 20 crew and 6 actors or whatever into a location, you're really disrupting the business. So like,
Yeah.
like most places, that was kind of my whole job on the beta test, was like locking in locations. And I was on like quite a few different spots. We just like kept looking because we couldn't get it cheap enough. And my whole job was like to talk to them on the phone and kind of be like, okay, we can do like $1,000. We're only going to be shooting there for a day. We won't use your bathroom, like that kind of thing. But then one location, I think we literally spent like 15 grand to have it for the day, just because it was, it shows up on screen. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was that. I think I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but what am I going to get in trouble? I
won't say anything.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see why you get in trouble. Also, it's just important to be honest about this kind of thing, because like,
Yeah.
I think not telling the truth.
Do you, I mean, when it comes to, sorry to cut you off.
No, no.
But when it comes to the budgeting, is it is there someone who, is it the producer who really just makes the sole decisions? And I mean this for smaller productions, obviously. Or is it more of a
it's a conversation for sure between producer, director. I mean, luckily on a lot of our stuff, we do like with me and Ethan and Bronson, we do like all of it together. So like, even if Bronson's directing, I will be doing a lot of what you would consider under that umbrella. Not like stepping on his toes, but like he'll be doing stuff where like he's in the scene or something and he like needs someone to keep an eye on the camera or that kind of thing, like on monitor, to make sure that it's going correctly, or like, oh, we should move here instead of there, that kind of thing. So with like the locations and deciding where you're going to allocate the biggest amounts of money, because obviously that's a huge deal, right? To spend like a ton of money on one location and like very little on others, like that's a big decision. That's definitely a committee decision,
Yeah.
It's not just one person making that call.
When you work on bigger productions, like you said you do, are there things that you learn working on those that you sort of incorporate into your own films?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest value to like working as a PA, because that's how I pay the bills, right? Because no one's paying me to direct yet. Someday it'll happen, but right now it's not happening. I mean, I did get paid as an associate producer on Beta Test, which was very cool. That was like a big step, I felt like. But yeah, usually most of the time I'm a production assistant. So I work on like bigger movies. And the coolest thing about that is like seeing different people work. So like I shot a lot of Mank, which is Fincher's most recent film. And like just seeing like his directing style and how they move through a location and how they shoot, seeing that sort of informs how I want to do it. And like you take that into your smaller productions,
How was it like shooting Mank? Because did it feel like time travel going back, or
it was bizarre? Yeah, you would like do you know the last scene where they're like in the ballroom and it's the Oscars?
I saw the whole movie.
Yeah, you like walk into that room and it's like full of smoke because they're all like smoking the fake cigarettes, and there's like guys in tuxedos and everyone has their hair down, and they have the literal Oscars from, what is it, the 30s or something?
40s or early 50s, yeah.
Yeah, so they have those literal, like the actual Oscars there, because of course they, have the money and they've done it the right way and it's Netflix, and they've like gotten with, the Academy and been like, yeah, bring these in. There's a guy who's there being paid just to stay with the Oscars. It's amazing. It's a different world. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a fun one, dude. That was like once in a lifetime for sure.
Tell us what it's like to be a production assistant on these types of films. Is there anything that you experience that's different from what we imagine or what we see?
So on films, you're really working very closely with the AD department, which is another thing that, like, in my experience at film school, didn't exist. Like, I never really learned about like scheduling or like meal penalties or like time cards, obviously.
Meal penalties.
So like if you go over 6 hours, all the union, like that's the thing, you don't learn anything about unions. Like you don't learn about Los Angeles. Maybe that's just a Boston idiosyncrasy, but I don't know. It seems like you never really learn about the business side in homeschool. You just learn, like they don't teach anyone how to be an AD or how to be, and maybe they do, maybe I'm totally wrong, but they don't teach you how to be an AD or a PA. They teach you how to be a director. It's like, that's great for 30 years into my career.
Yeah.
like that's awesome. And I'll be there when I'm 50 and my kids are graduating high school. But right now, that's not very helpful because we all come out here and we're all 22 and we're like, I'm a director, I'm a writer, I'm a producer, and no one pays you to do that. Because it's just like supply and demand. You know, there's 1,000 22-year-olds who are directors. In fact, there's more than 1,000.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. You know, I always find it interesting. A lot of, you know, actors will put on their web pages and, you know, and I think it's, in reality, we all sort of know it's, you know, we know them for being actors, and then all of a sudden pops up director or this, and then you look at their, and then it's all just acting. So you're trying to, you know, figure out and investigate where the directing comes from, and it's usually either blank or, you know, it's something that never really existed. But I think it's just a label that a lot of people like to use.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, man. A lot of people are writers. A lot of people are writers by title, apparently. And I hate to talk trash about that because like I'm not a writer. I haven't written a feature film, but I wrote this movie, and you know, hopefully, well, I have written a feature, but it hasn't been made, so does it count? I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it will be.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think there's any specific guideline as to what you can call yourself,
the
but
criteria, yeah.
but you know, there was an interesting thing my my theater teacher back in high school told me, and it was sort of an uplifting thing. It was about acting. You know, how a lot of people will give you the most depressing statistics. You know, there's this amount of actors, this amount of working actors, this amount of actors that actually make money. But he told me that 90% of actors, and I think, I don't know exactly how he calculated this. It may have just been from SAG-AFTRA, so it may have not included non-union actors or whatnot. But he said that 90% of actors don't regularly audition. So then, you know, you eliminate a whole area of people, and it gives you a little bit of confidence. And I'm sure it's similar with directors and writers. So
yeah, man. You know, where I'm from, there was like not a lot of pushback, but there was a decent amount of when I was like, oh, I think I want to make movies for a living. There was a lot of like, oh, well, that's not a real job. You know, there was a lot of this like, dude, no, you're smart. Like you've done well in school. Go be a lawyer. Go be a doctor. Like make money. Maybe don't be an idiot. And it's funny because I remember watching movies as a kid, and everyone turns them off at the credits. But if you watch the credits, there's hundreds of people making a living for each movie. How many movies are there? How many TV shows are there? You know, like there's a way to make money doing this. And now, I mean, that's like obvious to me because I do it. But like, it's amazing how much people think it's like a pipe dream, or like, it's like being a painter or something, and you're just gonna like be Picasso or be broke. And it's like, no, there's like a legitimate business here, guys.
Yeah.
A lot of people are making a lot of money.
Yeah, it's just the choices you make, right? And not all of them are what you may imagine them to be when you're going into college, or, you know, when you're dreaming big. But I think it's a legit. I mean, the entertainment industry is huge, especially if you're here in the States.
Unimaginably large. Yeah. And I mean, you know, not every director is David Fincher, right? Like there's a lot of people that I've worked with on commercials and music videos and everything else who are never going to win an Oscar, who are making a very decent life for themselves in Los Angeles, California, directing as a full-time job, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Dude, hundreds of people.
Yeah.
It's not that, it's a viable career path, although people don't think it is.
Yeah. That's also something they should probably teach you in film school. Maybe some of other positions that are available that are something else besides directing, producing, acting, and writing.
And like the pathways toward that, because like being an AD is, you know, that leads to producing. It can lead to directing, not as often. It pretty much what the like general consensus is like the only way to become a director is to direct. So it's essentially like doing this, right? Making your own short films and like trying to get into Sundance and trying to keep doing better and like improving upon your like your network, I guess. I don't know. It's this very like ambiguous kind of career path, but that's sort of the general wisdom is like the only way to direct is to direct.
Yeah. And it's not true.
Well, I think it might be. I don't know. Here's what I'll say.
Yeah.
The way to become a director is to direct, but I don't think that's the only way to have success in Hollywood.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Have you ever assistant directed?
I don't think I technically have been. I don't think so. I ADPA a lot. So like on movies, like oh yeah, I never finished telling you what it's like being a PA. But like essentially on a film or on like a TV show, when you're PAing, you're like the AD junior, like you're there, like the person that they kind of lean on. Whereas on a commercial or a music video, you're kind of who everyone leans on. So it's like a much harder position. But yeah, on a feature, you're like literally helping the ADs. You're like on the walkie with them. That's another thing they don't teach in school is walkie etiquette or call sheet literacy, or
What did you say? Walkie on a kit?
Walkie etiquette.
So, walkie etiquette.
Yeah, just like
there's
how do you
etiquette for talking on walkies?
Oh, big time. And it's painful when people are deeply uneducated in it. Again, that's another thing that
can you give us an example? What's walkie etiquette?
It's kind of something that like you have to experience to understand, but I can try. So pretty much like all the PAs will be on the radio with the director, or not the director, the assistant director. So like so on the radio there's channels, and all the AD staff and the PAs will be on channel 1. But channel 1 is reserved specifically for things pertaining to the shot. So like, hey, get those people out of the shot. They're standing in the middle of it. This gear needs to move, that kind of thing. So if you go to channel 1 and you're like talking to a different PA, you're like, hey, Mark, have you gotten breakfast yet? That kind of thing. Everyone else who's hearing this broadcast will be like,
hear it.
They're like, take it to channel 2, please. So what you would say is like,
take it to channel 2, get your own room.
Take it to channel 2. So you would be like, hey, Mark, channel 2. And he'd go switching, and then you both switch and you go, yeah, go ahead. And then and then you say, have you gotten breakfast? And he'll say, no, but I'm fine, back to 1. That kind of thing. So if you like really don't know what you're doing, you might be on there and be like, man, this is so cool. What a cool location, guys. And they'll be like, literally, who is this guy? Get him off my set.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. That's walkie etiquette.
Yeah.
101. Take it to 2. When in doubt, take it to 2.
Take it to 2. All right. Well, if there's nothing else that someone learned, I think the biggest thing is walkie etiquette and take it to 2.
Take it to 2.
I'll be sure to remember that. All right, we got a little bit of time remaining. I want to ask you just as we close out here. Hopefully the pandemic will be coming to a close very soon.
Yes.
I know it's hard to remember anything past 2019 as we tried here.
Yeah,
is there anything that you want to tell us about for anything that's upcoming, or any hopes you have in the near future?
About movies? I'm really excited.
Anything.
I'm really excited. Yeah, man.
Any other items to ship?
Yeah, exactly. I'd love for the pandemic to draw to a close. What movies am I excited for? I'm most excited for the beta test. So the beta test just got into Berlin, which is a film festival in, you're not going to believe it, Berlin. And it got in there. It's officially selected. So I'm really hoping they're going to do like screenings in June. I think they're doing like an actual festival. So I'm really hoping to go to that if I can afford to. I would love to do that.
You'll have to get some sponsorships in there.
Yeah, Berlin. Exactly. I'll have to.
You can. Yeah.
So
call
now,
Air Berlin, or well, I feel
yeah.
like Air Berlin, 'cause Air Berlin got is bankrupt, but maybe the what's the other German airline? Uh,
I have no
I
idea.
can't. It's not coming to my head.
Um,
What do you think of Mank? Do you think Mank is going to do well in the Oscars coming up
I
in
think it
April?
probably will do well. I personally didn't love it like as a movie, which is that's the weirdest thing because when you're on set, it's weird. It's so like nebulous as to what the movie is that you're actually creating. Because like, I'm on set on the like Oscar scene. I'm like, this is sick. This is gonna be the best movie ever. And then you see it and it's like 30 seconds in the whole movie. Maybe less. It might be less than that. And it's like, they shot so much without me. I was only an additional day player, I wasn't like on every day. But with the beta test, the movie going to Berlin, I was on almost every single day. I missed a couple at the end that were like reshoot days pretty much. But, I was on almost every day. So I have a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like. And I'm really excited about it. And I'm really, really looking forward to Berlin.
Super.
Yeah, that'll be the big thing. I'm excited for your festival. I want to come to New York or Sweden, whenever it happens. I look forward to hearing more about that. I'm all about traveling, dude, which is really not very fun during the pandemic because you can't do it. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to those two more than anything.
Well, we're excited to welcome you.
Awesome.
Whenever we have the festival scheduled,
I feel like we
it's
didn't
all
talk
ready
about Will at all.
And safe. We did. What do you mean? Of course we did. We don't want to give too much away. I mean,
don't want to get too into it. That's true.
Yeah. And I think you offered us, more than enough in terms of what you're doing behind the scenes and how life in LA is like right now. One more question for you that we close out. This is John's favorite question. Very simple. What's your favorite film of all time?
Oh yes, I hoped you were gonna ask that. I think I've been thinking about this a lot today, actually.
Oh wow! Because more so than anyone else.
I sort of expected this. I think it's The Social Network. I think. I don't just think it's my favorite movie. I delusionally think it's probably the best movie. I don't think any other movie comes close. Maybe Fight Club.
Okay. All right, Thomas, thank you so much. Really appreciate your insight. Again, we can't wait to have you at the festival, and we look forward to hearing more from you. Is there any handles that you want to, give people out? Instagram, Twitter?
Sure. Yeah, I didn't think of that. I think my Twitter and my Instagram are just Thomas the Cross.
Thomas the Cross.
Thomas the Cross, like using cross as an adjective, because I'm really such an angry person. Just Thomas the Cross.
Well, it didn't show here, so.
Awesome.
All right.
Cool, dude. Thank you,
Thomas. I appreciate it, and I wish everyone a good evening wherever you may be.
Absolutely.